Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. First flight takes off from London's Heathrow airport after it was shut due to power outage caused by a nearby substation fire. Donald Trump revokes legal status for thousands of migrants, intensifies immigration crackdown. India registers protest through diplomatic channels on China's so-called two new counties in Hotan Prefecture, parts of which fall in India's union territory of Ladakh. And Indian Premier League 2025 starting today. Kolkata Knight Riders to face Royal Challengers Bengaluru in first game at iconic Eden Gardens. Britain's Heathrow Airport said on Saturday it is open and fully operational a day after a fire knocked out its power supply and shut Europe's busiest airport, causing global travel chaos. Some flights resumed late on Friday, but the shutting of the world's fifth busiest airport for most of the day left tens of thousands searching for scarce hotel rooms and replacement seats while airlines tried to return jets and crew to bases. The airport had been due to handle 101,351 flights on Friday, flying up to 291,000 passengers, but planes were diverted to other airports in Britain and across Europe, while many long-haul flights returned to their point of departure. US President Donald Trump revoked security clearances for several prominent Democratic figures on Friday, including former Vice President Kamala Harris and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Trump, in a memorandum, said, and I quote, "I have determined that it is no longer in the national interest for the following individuals to access classified information." The list also includes former Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Trump also targeted Republican former Representative Liz Cheney, a sharp Trump critique, former Biden White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and Fiona Hill, a Russia expert who served on his National Security Council during his first term. Trump had already revoked the security clearance for Biden, denying the former president to the traditional access to US intelligence. In 2021, Biden revoked the security clearance for Trump, who was then a former president. US President Donald Trump's administration will revoke temporary legal status of 530,000 Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans and Venezuelans in the United States, according to a Federal Register notice on Friday. The move, effective April 24, cut short a 2-year parole granted to migrants under former President Joe Biden that allowed them to enter the country by air if they had US sponsors. Trump said on March 6 that he would decide very soon whether to strip the parole status from some 240,000 Ukrainians who fled to the US during the conflict with Russia. Trump took steps to ramp up immigration enforcement after taking office, including a push to deport record numbers of migrants in the US illegally. Voice of America employees, journalists and unions filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration in New York on Friday, arguing that the shutdown of US-funded news agencies violated their First Amendment rights to journalistic freedom. The lawsuit alleges that the U.S. Agency for Global Media, its acting director Victor Morales and special advisor Kari Lake violated laws by placing over 1,300 employees on leave and cutting funding for several news services. The cuts are part of an initiative by Donald Trump and Elon Musk to reduce government spending on programs they see as misaligned with U.S. interests. The lawsuit seeks to reverse the decision to shut down agency which funds media outlets. Meanwhile, the president of the American Federation of Government Employees, Everett Kelly, argued that the shutdown undermines press freedom and harms democracy worldwide. Canada targets July 1 Canada Day to achieve free internal trade by eliminating provincial and territorial trade barriers. Prime Minister Mark Carney said that the nation could offset potential US tariffs by eliminating internal trade barriers within Canada. Carney emphasized that there were three main approaches to do this: harmonizing regulation across provinces, provinces' mutual recognition of rules, and creating common national standards. By removing internal trade barriers, Canada can reduce trade costs by up to 15% and boost the economy by 4% to 8%, according to research cited by Carney. This move could also help mitigate the impact of US tariffs, which have already imposed a 25% tariff on Canadian steel and aluminum imports, with further tariffs set to follow on April 2nd.
We are creating a one-window approval process. We are committing to table legislation by the 1st of July for goods to travel across the country barrier-free or free of barriers, of federal barriers. So we're combing through all federal legislation for those barriers. We intend to, from a federal level, to have free trade by Canada Day.
Amid tariff concerns, the Ministry of External Affairs on Friday said that India and the US are making significant strides in their bilateral trade negotiations with the aim of expanding trade, enhancing market access and reducing tariff and non-tariff barriers. In a weekly media briefing, MEA spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal said that the two governments are actively working to build a framework for the bilateral trade agreement, which will be a multi-sector agreement beneficial to both nations.
India and the US are in the process of taking bilateral trade negotiations forward. The two governments are actively working to build a framework for the BTA, which would aim to expand trade, enhance market access, reduce tariff and non-tariff barriers. Government of India remains engaged with the US administration at various levels to arrive at a mutually beneficial multi-sector bilateral trade agreement.
The MEA spokesperson has expressed hope that India and Canada can re-establish their relationship based on mutual trust and sensitivity. He blamed the downturn in the relations to the license that was given to the extremist and secessionist elements in Canada.
The downturn in India-Canada relations was caused by the license that was given to the extremist and secessionist elements in that country. Our hope is that we can rebuild our ties based on mutual trust and sensitivity.
India has registered its solemn protest through diplomatic channels over the creation of new counties in Hotan Prefecture of China. In a written reply in the lower house of Indian Parliament, Minister of State for External Affairs Kirti Vardhan Singh noted that parts of jurisdiction of these so-called counties fall in India's Ladakh. He stressed that New Delhi has never accepted the illegal Chinese occupation of Indian territory in this area. The minister added that the creation of new counties will neither have a bearing on India's long-standing and consistent position regarding India's sovereignty over the area, nor lend legitimacy to China's illegal and forcible occupation of the same. He further stated that the government continues to keep a constant watch on all developments having a bearing on India's security and takes all the necessary measures to safeguard its sovereignty and territorial integrity. India and the European Union held the 4th India-EU Maritime Security Dialogue on Friday in New Delhi. The two sides conferred on ways to sustain a secure maritime environment conducive for inclusive growth and global well-being. They reviewed ongoing cooperation initiatives in the maritime domain and avenues of reinforcing international and regional mechanisms for comprehensive maritime security. The two sides also agreed to strengthen their shared efforts in areas such as countering illicit maritime activities, protection of critical maritime infrastructure, regional capability development, and capacity building activities. All right, let's see what's happening in the world. And at nearly 3,000 meters high on a mountain, the Varay Glacier has been a favorite spot for skiers at Ladakh, France. As the glacier are melting quickly, it highlights how climate change is affecting winter sports, and Ladakh is finding ways to cope while keeping things sustainable. Relatives unveiled a mural in Mexico City to commemorate Miroslava Breach, a journalist killed in 2017 for exposing political links to organized crime. Known for her fearless reporting with La Yonada, Breach's murder underscores the peril journalists face in Mexico. Her mural stands as a poignant tribute to her bravery and call for justice and press freedom. Complex Con is back in Hong Kong for its second year, expecting 35,000 visitors over 3 days, featuring a stronger live lineup with Metro Boomin and K-pop group NJZ. The event includes a marketplace of limited edition fashion items. Fans eagerly lined up at Asia World Expo, with some travelling internationally for the Pop Culture Fest. The much-awaited International Pop Fest will conclude on Sunday. Chinese scientists have figured out that the South Pole Aitken Basin, at the moon's largest and oldest crater, was formed about 4.25 billion years ago. They discovered this by studying nearly 2 kilograms of lunar soil brought back from the moon's far side in 2024. This research gives a clearer picture of how the moon and the solar system developed long ago. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Japan, China and South Korea discuss trilateral cooperation. Water cannons fired after tense protests grow in Turkey over Istanbul mayor's detention. George Foreman, heavyweight champ and purveyor of grills, dies at 76.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Top diplomats from Japan, China and South Korea met in Tokyo on Saturday as the East Asian neighbors seek common ground on regional security and economic issues amid growing geopolitical situation. The talks followed a rare trilateral summit in Seoul, where the neighbors agreed to deepen ties and restated their goal of a denuclearized Korean peninsula. The foreign ministers of the three nations agreed that peace on the Korean peninsula was a shared responsibility. The leaders also pledged to promote cooperation. The first meeting of the country's foreign ministers since 2023 comes as US President Donald Trump appends decades-old alliances and is expected to cover topics from North Korean nuclear weapons to trade and pave the way for a trilateral summit following one in Seoul last year.
The international situation has become increasingly severe, and it is no exaggeration to say that we are at a turning point in history. Under such circumstances, it has become more important than ever to make efforts to overcome divisions and confrontations through dialogue and cooperation.
We will strengthen coordination and cooperation under the mechanism of ASEAN, China, Japan and South Korea and East Asia Summit, and carry out cooperation between China, Japan and South Korea in the neighboring countries to promote the common development of the region. The three sides agreed to support each other be good host of APEC and promote open regionalism. We will adhere to the multilateralism and free trade and promote economic globalization in a more inclusive direction.
We have reaffirmed that it is in the common interest and responsibility of the three countries to maintain peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. I stated that it is important for the three countries of Korea, Japan and China to faithfully implement the UN Security Council resolutions and to make efforts to stop North Korea's provocations and for the North Korea's complete denuclearization. I also stressed that illegal military cooperation between Russia and North Korea must be stopped immediately.
On the third night of protests following the detention of Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, tens of thousands gathered in front of city's municipality building. The protests turned chaotic on Friday when demonstrators charged at riot police, who responded with non-lethal projectiles and pepper spray. The protests are part of Turkey's largest show of civil disobedience in over a decade, with President Tayyip Erdogan warning that the demonstrations will not be tolerated. Despite a ban, thousands gathered in and tensions are expected to rise over the weekend when a court rules on formally arresting İmamoğlu. Germany, France and Britain have issued a joint statement calling for an immediate return to a ceasefire in Gaza. The joint statement also demanded Israel to restore humanitarian access. The ministers expressed their alarm at the resumption of Israeli strikes, stating that it marks a dramatic step backward for the people of Gaza. They urged all parties to re-engage in negotiations to ensure a permanent ceasefire. The three nations called on all parties to re-engage with negotiations to ensure the ceasefire is implemented in full and becomes permanent. The joint appeal follows Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz's threat to annex parts of Gaza Strip if Hamas doesn't release the hostages. The ministers emphasized that long-lasting ceasefire is the only credible pathway towards a sustainable peace and a two-state solution. Whereas after Israel resumed ground operation in Gaza, Hamas is reviewing a U.S. proposal to restore the ceasefire. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has proposed a bridge plan to extend the ceasefire in Gaza into April beyond the Ramadan and Passover holidays. This extension aims to provide time for negotiations on a permanent end to hostilities. Hamas is still considering Witkoff's proposal along with other ideas, with the goal of securing a deal that includes prisoner releases, an end to the conflict and a complete Israeli military withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. Israel on Saturday claimed to have intercepted 3 rockets from Lebanon despite a ceasefire that reduced violence between the two sides. Israel's defense minister emphasized that Lebanese government bears responsibility for any rocket fire from its territory, adding that he has instructed the military to respond accordingly. And India strengthened its naval capabilities with the launch of Tavasya, second frigate of Project 11356 at Goa Shipyard Limited. India's Minister of State for Defence Sanjay Seth graced the occasion as the chief guest on Saturday. Tavasya is designed for multi-role warfare and features advanced indigenous systems like the BrahMos missile and sonar. With over 56% indigenous content, the stealth warship boosts India's self-reliance in defense manufacturing. With a displacement of over 3,800 tons, the frigate enhances India's maritime dominance. This launch is a strategic assertion of India's self-sufficiency, industrial capability and geopolitical foresight. With India experiencing multiple earthquake tremors over the past year, the need for stronger disaster preparedness has become more urgent. The Indian government has launched several initiatives to enhance earthquake safety and resilience. Seismic observatories doubled from 80 in 2014 to 168 by February 2025. National Disaster Management Authority aired Earthquake Awareness Program on Doordarshan in March 2025. Prime Minister Narendra Modi proposed a 10-point disaster risk reduction agenda in 2016. 59% of India's land area is earthquake-prone, leading to stricter building code enforcement. Early warning systems have been implemented in the Himalayan region. Earthquake safety guidelines were simplified in 2021 for better infrastructure resilience. New systems have been established for damage assessment and insurance coverage. Bhukamp mobile app has been launched by the National Centre for Seismology for real-time earthquake updates. India has also been actively providing humanitarian assistance and disaster relief support to countries affected by natural calamities. Today on March 22nd, we celebrate World Water Day. The theme for this year is glacier preservation, emphasizing the need to protect these natural water reservoirs. In India, a nationwide campaign, Catch the Rain mission under the Jal Shakti scheme, is promoting water preservation by conserving it where it falls. This initiative aligns with the global effort to address water-related challenges. More in this report.
The World Water Day, celebrated on March 22nd, is dedicated to conserve planet's most precious resource. In 2021, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched Catch the Rain mission under Jal Shakti Abhiyan, a significant step towards ensuring a water-rich India for future generations. The mission's objectives are threefold: to conserve rainwater, revive old ponds and wells, and increase groundwater levels.
जब हम पानी की समस्या के समाधान की बात करते हैं, तो पानी को बचाना यानी जल संरक्षण भी उतना ही जरूरी हो जाता है। आज देश भर में एक अभियान चलाया जा रहा है, कैच द रेन, बूंद बूंद पानी को पकड़ो। कैच द रेन का मतलब है जहां बारिश का पानी गिरे उसे व्यर्थ नहीं जाने देना।
To make water is life more than just a slogan, concrete steps are needed towards solving the water crisis through public participation. With this objective, Prime Minister Modi launched Jal Shakti Abhiyan Catch the Rain campaign on World Water Day in 2021. The campaign emphasizes 5 focused measures to promote water conservation, including rainwater harvesting and water conservation, census, geotagging and listing of all water bodies, preparation of scientific plans for water conservation, establishment of Jal Shakti Kendras in all districts, intensive afforestation, creation of awareness. The Jal Shakti Abhiyan Catch the Rain initiative has made significant strides since its launch in 2021, becoming an annual event that covers all rural and urban blocks across India. The campaign's success is evident in the completion of over 1.67 crore water conservation works achieved by reviving traditional water bodies and promoting efficient water use. Each year, the campaign takes on a new theme. The 2024 edition focused on Nari Shakti se Jal Shakti, emphasizing the vital role women play in water conservation. On this World Water Day, let us all join hands to conserve water for future generations, in line with Prime Minister Modi's call for water conservation.
अगर देश ने पानी की बचत पर ध्यान नहीं दिया, पानी का दोहन नहीं रोका, तो आने वाले दशकों में स्थिति बहुत ज्यादा बिगड़ जाएगी। और हमारे पूर्वजों ने हमें पानी दिया है, ये हमारी जिम्मेवारी है कि हमारी आगे वाली पीढ़ी को हमें पानी सुरक्षित देकर के जाना चाहिए।
Bureau Report, DD India.
And time now for sport. One of the most highly anticipated cricket tournaments, Indian Premier League, is set to begin today with a grand opening ceremony at iconic Eden Gardens in Kolkata. This marks the 18th season of the tournament, featuring 10 franchise teams competing in an electrifying T20 spectacle. Following the star-studded ceremony, defending champions Kolkata Knight Riders will take on Royal Challengers Bengaluru in the tournament's opening match. In this tournament, The 10 teams have been divided into 2 groups. Each team will play 14 matches, 7 at home and 7 away. The tournament will conclude on May 25th, promising fans another thrilling season of cricket. Legendary boxer George Foreman, who lost to Muhammad Ali in the iconic 1974 Rumble in the Jungle before reclaiming the title 2 decades later, passed away at the age of 76 on Friday. An official statement on the cause of death has not been released yet, but his fans have come up with several theories. George Foreman was one of the great second acts in sports who reclaimed the heavyweight boxing title after coming out of retirement and became a celebrated product pitchman. Big George's comeback and the fortune he made selling fat-wicking electric cooking grills made him an icon of self-improvement and success for the baby boom generation. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.